The morning dew still clung to the grass as I walked through our family farm, my boots leaving imprints in the soft earth. 30 years of memories were rooted in this soil, just like the crops we'd grown season after season. I was 7 when Grandpa first taught me to drive the tractor, 13 when I helped deliver my first calf, and 18 when I chose to stay while my brother, Marcus, left for the city. This land is our legacy. Grandpa would say, his weathered hands gesturing to the endless fields that stretched toward the horizon. It's not just about farming, it's about family. I believed him. Maybe that's why I stayed when everyone else left. Now, at 35, I stood at the edge of our main field, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of amber and gold. The farm had changed since Grandpa passed 5 years ago. The old barn needed repairs, the equipment was aging, but the soul of the place remained intact. At least, that's what I thought until Marcus returned last year. "James," he'd said, clapping me on the back like we were still close, "the prodigal son returns." I should have known then. The way his eyes scanned the property, calculating, measuring, seeing dollar signs where I saw memories. But he was my brother. And when he said he wanted to help run the farm to modernize it, I believed him. That was my first mistake. The sound of tires on gravel pulled me from my thoughts. A sleek black SUV wound its way up our dirt road, kicking up dust clouds in its wake. Marcus and his wife, Amanda, right on time for their morning inspection. They'd moved into the main house 3 months ago, while I stayed in the smaller cottage near the barn. It was temporary, they said, just until they got things sorted. I watched them step out of their vehicle, Amanda in designer boots that had never seen real farm work, Marcus in what he called his casual business attire. They were talking animatedly, laughing about something, until they spotted me. "James," Marcus called out, his smile too wide, too perfect. Just the man I wanted to see. We got exciting news. I stayed where I was, letting them walk to me. The morning sun cast long shadows behind them as they approached. "We've been thinking," Amanda began, her manicured hands clasped together, "about the future of the farm." "The future," I repeated, feeling something cold settle in my stomach. Marcus pulled a folder from his leather briefcase. "We've got some papers for you to sign. Just formalities, really. We're restructuring the ownership to streamline operations." I took the folder, opened it, and felt my world tilt sideways. Transfer of ownership. Sale price, $1. The farm, our family's legacy, being sold to Amanda's newly formed agricultural company. "You're selling the farm." My voice was quiet, but it carried across the morning air like thunder. "Not selling," Marcus corrected, straightening his designer shirt. "Strategic restructuring. Amanda's company can manage things more efficiently. Tax benefits, you know. Plus, it protects our assets." Our assets. As if he'd been here all these years, working the land, keeping the farm alive while he built his corporate career in the city. "And what about my share?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. Amanda stepped forward, her smile practiced and professional. "You'll be taken care of, James. We're offering you a generous position as farm manager. Full benefits, competitive salary. You want me to work for you? On my own farm?" Marcus sighed, his patience wearing thin. "Don't be difficult about this. It's just business. Smart business. The farm needs modernization, investment. Amanda's company can provide that." I looked down at the papers again, seeing Grandpa's face in my mind. His words echoed in my memory. "The land knows its true caretakers, son. It knows who loves it and who just wants to use it. I need time to think about this, I said, closing the folder. Marcus's smile faltered. We need an answer today, James. The lawyers are waiting. Of course they were. They probably had buyers lined up already, developers ready to turn our farmland into suburban housing or a shopping complex. Just sign the papers, Amanda urged, pulling a pen from her designer bag. It's better this way. More professional. I took the pen, felt its weight in my hand. You know what Grandpa would say about this? Marcus rolled his eyes. Grandpa's not here anymore. Times change. Farms like this, running on sentiment and tradition, they don't survive in today's market. But Grandpa was here, in every acre, every building, every memory. And there was something else, something I hadn't told them about. The real will, the one Grandpa had left with his old friend Judge Thompson, with specific instructions about when it should be revealed. You're right, I said finally, watching their faces light up with victory. Times do change. I handed the folder back without signing. I'll have my answer for you tomorrow morning. First light. Marcus started to protest, but Amanda touched his arm, ever the strategist. That's fine, James. We understand this is a big decision. Just remember, we're trying to help, to preserve the farm's legacy in a modern way. They walked back to their SUV, their shoes clean despite standing on farmland, their hands soft and uncalloused. I watched them drive away, dust settling in their wake. Inside my cottage, I pulled out the old wooden box Grandpa had given me before he passed. Open it when the time is right, he'd said. You'll know when. The time was right. Inside was a letter, yellowed with age, but preserved in plastic, and a USB drive that looked surprisingly new. My hands trembled as I opened the letter. Letter section. No changes made here. It's grammatically sound and emotionally strong. I sat there for a long time, reading and rereading the letter. Outside, the farm hummed with life. Birds calling, cattle lowing, wheat rustling in the morning breeze. This land had supported our family for generations. I wouldn't let it become another casualty of corporate greed. The next morning, I arrived at the main house before dawn. Marcus and Amanda were already there, paperwork spread across the kitchen table where we'd eaten countless family meals. Ready to sign? Marcus asked, not even looking up from his phone. Almost, I said, pulling out my own folder. But first, I think we should review these documents. I laid out the papers from the USB drive one by one. Property deeds, trust documents, corporate filings, bank statements. With each document, the color drained from Marcus's face. What? What is this? Amanda grabbed one of the papers, her hands shaking. This, I said calmly, is Grandpa's real legacy. The farm isn't just a farm. It's the controlling shareholder in your development company's parent corporation, and I'm the sole trustee. Marcus stumbled back, hitting a chair. That's impossible. We've been planning this for months. The buyers. Work for me, I finished. Grandpa set this up 20 years ago. He knew someone would try to take the farm eventually. He made sure it would be protected. You can't do this, Amanda sputtered. We have contracts. I smiled, feeling Grandpa's presence in the room. With a company I own, feel free to have your lawyers review everything. Judge Thompson has all the original documents. The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus's face had gone from pale to red, his carefully constructed plan crumbling before his eyes. So what now? He finally asked, his voice hollow. You're going to throw us out." I looked around the kitchen, at the walls that held so many memories. "No, you're still family, but things will be different. If you want to stay, you'll work, really work. Learn the land, understand why it matters. No more shortcuts, no more schemes. And if we refuse," Amanda challenged, though her voice trembled, "then you can return to the city, your choice. But the farm stays whole, stays in the family, stays true to what Grandpa built." The sun was rising outside, painting the kitchen in soft golden light. In that moment, I could almost hear Grandpa's laugh, see his knowing smile. Marcus slumped in his chair, decades of arrogance draining away. He knew, all this time, he knew what I would try to do. He knew who loved the land and who wanted to use it, I said softly. The farm was never just about money. It was about legacy, about responsibility, about family. Amanda gathered their papers with shaking hands, her dreams of quick profit evaporating in the morning light. But Marcus sat there, looking at the farm through the window with new eyes. "Teach me," he whispered, and for the first time since he returned, I saw my brother instead of a businessman. "Teach me how to love it like you do." I nodded, feeling the weight of Grandpa's wisdom settling around us. "We start today. First task, fixing the north fence. Bring work gloves." As they left to change into proper work clothes, I stood in the kitchen doorway, looking out over the awakening farm. The morning dew still clung to the grass. My boots would soon leave imprints in the soft earth, and another day of honest work was beginning. Grandpa was right. The land knows its true caretakers. And sometimes, just sometimes, it helps bring families back together. The weeks that followed brought changes nobody could have predicted. Marcus, the polished corporate executive, was learning what real work meant. His designer clothes were replaced by sturdy denim and work boots, his manicured hands slowly developing calluses. "I don't understand how you do this every day," he panted, wiping sweat from his brow as we repaired the irrigation system. The summer sun beat down mercilessly, turning the normally pleasant fields into an oven. "You get used to it," I replied, hiding my smile. "Besides, someone has to do it." Amanda had returned to the city, unable or unwilling to adapt to farm life. She filed for divorce 2 weeks after our confrontation, citing irreconcilable differences. Marcus, surprisingly, seemed relieved. "I married her because she fit the image," he confessed one evening as we sat on the porch, watching the sunset. Corporate wife, perfect smile, connections in all the right places. Never realized how empty it all was until now. The farm was changing him, just as it had changed me years ago. The land had a way of stripping away pretenses, leaving only what was real and true. But not everything was smooth sailing. The development company, the one I now controlled, was in the middle of several contracts Marcus had initiated. Deals that would have destroyed not just our farm, but dozens of others in the area. "We need to fix this," I told him one morning, spreading the contracts across the kitchen table. "These families, they're just like us. They don't deserve to lose everything because some corporation wants to build strip malls." Marcus studied the papers, his face showing a different kind of understanding now. "I know these people," he said quietly. "I met with them, convinced them selling was their only option. God, I was such a—" "You were doing what you thought was right," I interrupted. "But now we can do what is right." We spent the next month reworking the contracts. Instead of buying out the farms, we offered partnerships. The development company would invest in modernizing their operations while keeping the land in the family's hands. It wasn't the profit margin the corporate board had wanted, but as majority shareholder, I had the final say. One particularly memorable morning, we visited the Wilson farm. Old Joe Wilson had been one of the holdouts against Marcus's original buyout plan. His face darkened when he saw my brother step out of the truck. "Come to pressure me again, boy," Joe called out, his hand tightening on his walking stick. "No, sir," Marcus replied, looking the old farmer in the eye. "Come to apologize and to make things right." We explained the new arrangement, showing him how he could keep his farm while getting the resources to make it thrive. Joe listened skeptically at first, then with growing interest. "Your grandfather," he said to me finally, "he would be proud of this, both of you." That afternoon, as we drove back home, Marcus was unusually quiet. "What's on your mind?" I asked, navigating the familiar country roads. "All those years in the city," he began, "all those deals and mergers and acquisitions. I thought I was building something, but I was just moving papers around, making money appear and disappear. Here, though," he gestured to the fields around us, "here, we're actually creating something, growing things, helping people." The transformation in my brother wasn't just external. The arrogant corporate shark was being replaced by someone who understood the value of hard work, of community, of legacy. One Sunday morning, I found him in Grandpa's old study, reading through dusty agricultural journals and farm management books. "Did you know," he said without looking up, "that Grandpa was implementing sustainable farming practices before it was even a thing? His crop rotation methods, his water conservation systems. He was decades ahead of his time." I leaned against the doorframe. He used to say that farming isn't just about taking from the land, it's about giving back. Marcus nodded, turning a page carefully. "I've been thinking about that development company's resources. What if we use them to help other farms implement these methods? Create a network of sustainable family farms sharing knowledge and resources." The idea took root and grew, just like everything else on the farm. We began organizing workshops, bringing in experts to teach modern sustainable farming techniques. The very company that had once threatened to destroy these farms was now helping them thrive. But the most significant change came one stormy evening. The rain had been pounding for hours when our weather alert system warned of potential flooding in the lower fields. Without hesitation, Marcus was pulling on his rain gear. "The Hendersons' farm is in the flood zone," he said, checking his phone. "They're out of town visiting their daughter. We need to help them." We spent that night in the driving rain, working alongside other neighboring farmers to sandbag the crucial areas of the Hendersons' property. By morning, we were exhausted, muddy, and soaked to the bone, but the farm was safe. As we sat in our kitchen later, drinking coffee and trying to warm up, Marcus looked at his mud-covered hands. "You know what's weird," he said. "My hands are blistered, my back is killing me, and I'm probably catching a cold, but I feel more alive than I ever did closing million-dollar deals in the city." I understood exactly what he meant. The farm had that effect on people. It demanded everything from you, but it gave back something more valuable than money: purpose. That evening, as the sun broke through the clearing clouds, we walked the property together. The fresh rain had given everything a clean, renewed look. Near the old oak tree where Grandpa used to tell us stories, Marcus stopped. "I owe you an apology," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Not just for trying to steal the farm, but for leaving you alone with all this for so long, for not understanding what Grandpa was trying to teach us." "He knew you'd understand eventually," I replied. "That's why he set everything up the way he did. He was giving you a chance to come back, to remember who you really are. Marcus nodded, looking out over the fields that were now turning golden in the evening light. Think it's too late to become a real farmer? I smiled, remembering Grandpa's words. The land knows its true caretakers. It's never too late, I said. The farm has always been waiting for both of us. As we walked back to the house, plans and ideas flowing between us like the evening breeze, I realized something profound. The farm hadn't just survived our family drama, it had healed it. Where there had been division, now there was unity. Where there had been greed, now there was purpose. And somewhere, I knew, Grandpa was smiling. As autumn painted our fields in shades of gold and amber, the true test of our newfound brotherhood emerged. The farming community that had once viewed Marcus with suspicion was slowly warming to his transformation, but not everyone was ready to forgive and forget. The annual Harvest Festival, a tradition that brought together all the local farming families, was approaching. For the first time in 15 years, Marcus would be attending, not as a visiting city businessman, but as a working farmer. They're not going to accept me, he said one evening as we finished repairing the combine harvester. And honestly, I don't blame them. Give them time, I replied, wiping grease from my hands. These people have long memories, but they also have big hearts. The festival was held in the community center, a building our grandfather had helped construct decades ago. As we walked in, conversations hushed. Sarah Miller, whose farm had been one of Marcus's primary targets for acquisition, stood by the punch bowl, her eyes narrowing. "Well, look who's playing farmer now," she said, loud enough for nearby people to hear. Guess the corporate life didn't work out. Marcus straightened his shoulders but kept his voice gentle. "No, Sarah. I finally figured out what was really important." Before she could respond, her teenage son Tommy rushed up to us. "Mr. Marcus, did you bring those soil analysis reports? Dad's been asking about them." The tension broke slightly as Marcus pulled a folder from his jacket. For the past month, he'd been helping the Millers implement new soil management techniques, using his corporate connections to access advanced testing methods it couldn't otherwise afford. Sarah watched the exchange, her expression softening slightly. "Tommy says you've been out there every weekend, helping with the new irrigation system." "Your son's a quick learner," Marcus replied. "He understands the science better than I do." As the evening progressed, more stories emerged. The Hendersons spoke about the flood night, how Marcus had led the sandbagging effort. The Pattersons mentioned how he'd helped them renegotiate their equipment loans using his financial expertise. Old Joe Wilson actually clapped him on the back, declaring, "Boys finally learned what real work means." But the real moment of change came when Marcus took the stage. The festival traditionally included time for farmers to share their plans and concerns for the coming year. Nobody expected my brother to speak. "Many of you have known me as the prodigal son who tried to destroy what his family built," he began, his voice steady but humble. "You're not wrong. I came back here thinking I knew better, that progress meant paving over tradition. I couldn't have been more wrong." The room fell silent as he continued. "But my brother, and this land, taught me something important. True progress isn't about destroying the old to make way for the new. It's about building on our foundations, honoring our legacy while embracing the future." He outlined our plans for the Sustainable Farming Network, explaining how combining traditional farming wisdom with modern technology could help all our farms thrive. As he spoke, I watched the faces in the crowd change, from skepticism to interest and finally to hope. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," he concluded. "I'm asking for a chance to be part of this community again, to work alongside you all, to help preserve what our parents and grandparents built, not as a businessman, but as a farmer. The silence that followed was broken by old Joe Wilson's voice. Well, boy, looks like you finally learned to speak truth instead of spreadsheets. Laughter rippled through the room, and suddenly the tension that had built up over years began to dissolve. People came forward with questions about the Sustainable Farming Initiative, sharing their own ideas and experiences. Later that night, as we drove home under a star-filled sky, Marcus was quiet again. "What's on your mind?" I asked. "I was thinking about the day I left for college," he said. "Grandpa tried to tell me something, but I was too eager to escape, too sure I knew better. He said the richest soil isn't in the fields, it's in the community that tends them." I smiled, remembering. He was always saying things like that. "I finally understand what he meant," Marcus continued. "It's not just about the land or the crops. It's about the people, the relationships, the way everyone comes together." The next morning brought unexpected news. The corporate board of the development company, the one I now controlled, had called an emergency meeting. Some of the minority shareholders were challenging our new direction. "They're saying we're violating our fiduciary duty," Marcus explained, reading through the legal documents, "that by helping farms stay independent instead of acquiring them, we're failing to maximize shareholder value." I felt my stomach tighten. Can they stop us? Marcus smiled, a hint of his old corporate shark showing through, but now tempered with wisdom. "Actually, this might be our opportunity to do something even bigger." Over the next few days, we worked with local farmers to develop a new proposal. Instead of the development company acquiring farms, we would transform it into a cooperative, with the farmers as shareholders. The company's resources would be used to modernize operations, develop sustainable practices, and create a strong market presence for their products. "It's risky," Marcus admitted as we finalized the details. "The board members won't like giving up control." "But it's right," I replied. "It's what Grandpa would have done." The board meeting was held in the city, in a gleaming skyscraper that seemed a world away from our fields. Marcus and I wore suits for the occasion, but our hands were still calloused from farm work. As Marcus presented our proposal, I watched the board members' reactions. Some were outraged, others intrigued. The deciding vote came from an elderly board member who had been silent throughout the presentation. "My father was a farmer," she said finally. "He lost his land to a company much like ours. What you're proposing, it's not just good business, it's right. You have my support." The transformation was approved. As we drove back to the farm that evening, the city lights fading behind us, Marcus laughed. "You know what's funny?" he said. "A year ago, I thought success meant having the biggest office in that building. Now I know it means having the strongest roots in this soil." The news spread quickly through the farming community. Families that had been struggling to keep their farms now had hope for the future. The cooperative model meant they could maintain their independence while gaining the advantages of modern corporate resources. That weekend, we hosted a barbecue at the farm. Families from all around came, bringing dishes and stories to share. As the sun set, I found Marcus sitting on the porch steps, watching children play in the yard while their parents talked and laughed. "Remember when we used to play hide and seek in the barn?" he asked. "Until you decided you were too grown up for farm games," I replied. He nodded, smiling. "I spent 15 years trying to grow up, only to realize I needed to remember how to be that kid again, the one who loved this land without thinking about its market value." As the evening wound down and families began to head home, old Joe Wilson approached us one last time. Your grandfather, he said, looking at both of us, he always said this land had a way of bringing people back to themselves. Guess he was right about that too. Looking out over our fields, now dark under the rising moon, I knew he was right. The farm hadn't just survived our family drama. It had transformed it into something better. Something true. 5 years have passed since that transformative autumn. The farm stands stronger than ever, not just as a piece of land, but as the heart of a thriving community. The sustainable farming cooperative we created has grown to include 37 family farms, each maintaining its independence while sharing resources and knowledge. Standing in our wheat field on a crisp morning, I watch Marcus teaching his 4-year-old daughter, Emma, about the different types of crops we grow. She sits perched on his shoulders, her small hands gesturing excitedly as she identifies each plant, just as Grandpa once taught us. Uncle James, she calls out when she spots me. Daddy says the sunflowers are almost ready. The sunflowers were Emma's idea. Last spring, she scattered seeds everywhere, and instead of replanting, we decided to let them grow. Now they've become our signature crop, with local restaurants competing for our sunflower oil. Marcus married Sarah Miller's cousin, Kate, 2 years ago. The wedding was held right here on the farm, under the old oak tree where Grandpa used to tell his stories. Kate, an agricultural scientist, helped us perfect our sustainable farming methods. Their love story became a symbol of how healing can grow from conflict. Sometimes, Marcus said during his wedding speech, you have to lose your way completely to find your true path. The development company that once threatened to destroy our community is now a model for sustainable agricultural business. Universities send their students to study our cooperative model, and other farming communities across the country have started implementing similar programs. Amanda occasionally appears in business magazines, leading some new venture in the city. She sent a letter once, congratulating us on our success and admitting she never understood what the farm truly meant. Marcus wrote back, thanking her for being part of the journey that brought him home. Old Joe Wilson passed away last winter, but not before seeing his grandson Tommy take over their family farm using the methods he learned from our cooperative. At Joe's memorial, the entire farming community gathered to share stories about the man who helped hold us together through difficult times. He was right about you boys, Tommy said to us that day. Said you'd either be the best or worst thing to happen to this community. Turned out to be the best. Today, as I watch Emma running through the fields, her laughter carried by the wind, I think about Grandpa's real legacy. It wasn't just the legal documents that protected our farm, or even the land itself. It was his understanding that true wealth grows from the soil of community, family, and purpose. Marcus joins me, carrying 2 mugs of coffee. Remember when I thought success meant having my name on a corporate building? Now it's on a barn instead. I laugh, accepting the coffee. A much better place for it, he agrees, watching his daughter chase butterflies between the corn rows. The morning sun catches on something in the distance. New solar panels we installed last month, powering our modern irrigation system. It's a perfect symbol of what we've built. The seamless blend of tradition and progress, old wisdom and new technology. Grandpa would have loved this, Marcus says softly. Not just the farm, but what it's become, what we've become. I nod, remembering the words in Grandpa's letter. The land knows its true caretakers. He was right, as he so often was. The land didn't just know, it taught. It healed. It transformed. Emma runs back to us, her small hands full of wildflowers. For the kitchen table, she announces proudly. because Grandpa always said every day needs a little beauty. Marcus and I exchanged glances. Neither of us ever told her about Grandpa's saying, "Perhaps some wisdom just runs in the soil, passed down through generations like the heritage seeds we still plant every spring." As we walked back to the house together, the morning dew still clinging to our boots, I realized that our story wasn't just about saving a family farm. It was about rediscovering what family really means, about finding our way back to what matters most. The farm stands as it always has, but now it's more than just fields and buildings. It's a testament to the power of forgiveness, the strength of community, and the endless possibility of growth, not just in crops, but in human hearts.